How's it going out there, guys? It is my honor to bring you a sneaker that is just all over covered in Puerto Rico. It's a great sneaker, it's a great story to tell, it's a great narrative, and it's an honor, it truly is, to represent this nation as it makes its foray into the Nike Air Force One land. And we've been here before with Puerto Rican sneakers, but here we are again with this upcoming release. I think I'm right in saying this one's due to drop on June the 2nd. That's what I do at my channels. I talk about upcoming sneakers and sneaker releases that are just a few weeks away, and this one is right up there with the best of them. It's a clean sneaker, it's a beautiful sneaker, but it's missing something, and what it's missing is its story getting out there. People have not done a good job of telling the story of the sneaker. They've been cursory, just a quick glance over it. It's a white sneaker, some blue and red details, and that's about it. But there's more to it, there's much more to it. There's a really important story in the middle of this sneaker that's being missed out, and today I'm going to set that to right and tell you guys that story as we take a look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One Puerto Rico. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel des. Mainichi Yapsuru no de, Mainichi Mite Kudasai. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today it's an Air Force One that we're going to be having a look at, and it's a cracking sneaker. And you know what? I think I'm going to make a quick diverge, a little detour into this right here. There's an Air Force One React. And the reason why I want to do that is I'm going to start at the bottom of today's Puerto Rico sneaker, and we're going to look at these Reacts. One of the things I talked about when I looked at that was that I didn't appreciate the fact that they took off those signature stars from the outsole. And then if we flip back to our Puerto Rican friends right here, you can see those stars are back on the bottom of this shoe where they belong, and it's great to see one of the staples of the shoe back where it should be. Now, some people in the comments for that React video said, yeah, it's not that big a deal that the stars aren't there. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's a massive part of the sneaker, and I'm glad to see that the Air Force One line and Puerto Rico have put them back in this sneaker. But with that being said, let's talk about the sneaker and get into it now. It's a two-part video today. I want to talk about A, that story that's been missed out by some of the people out there who haven't told the story of the sneaker very well, and B, we want to also actually look at some of the clean and details on this and what makes it an absolutely cracking Air Force One. There are lots of Air Force Ones out there. In fact, recently I think I did a video about a women's Air Force One, which was either called the Tearaway or the Reveal, depending on which way you looked at it, but it's one of those white ones, beautiful white sneaker, very, very similar to this, very white sneaker. But in the case of that women's Reveal, you could peel away that top upper and it revealed a more colourful tumbled leather upper below it. But these guys here are pure white. They're beautiful, clean, buttery white leather on there. It's a great sneaker. And we'll get into those details in a minute, but first that story. And the story's right here on the insole. You can see on the insole of these guys, you've got a frog on each foot. Now, I've looked around a little bit, not hugely. It's not like I spent my life researching this shoe, but you know, I dipped into a few places on the internet, a couple of, you know, social media sites or whatnot, you know, sneaker channels and things like that, and nobody had talked about this yet. And maybe it's just me and I didn't find the right people, but for sure this has to be talked about. Now, that right there is a national symbol of Puerto Rico. It's not just, you know, a frog on Puerto Rico, it's actually a national symbol of Puerto Rico, so it's very important that we talk about it. And the thing is, I read two different ways for describing the frog. It's either the cooey frog, it's a cooey or kooky frog. It's kooky frog or the caw-key frog, I think. And I'm going to get that wrong, so I'm not going to try and name it. But what I will tell you is that the name does have those two syllables. So if it is koo-key, for example, the frogs make this noise in the middle of the night, only at night, and only the male frogs at that. And they make the noise, and one half of the noise, let's say the coo, is to ward off the other male frogs and say, get out of my territory. And the other half, the key, is to do with attracting the females. A great little bit of details to go with that particular frog. And that's why it's in there, is because it's a national symbol of Puerto Rico. But on top of that, one of the reasons why Puerto Ricans are proud of this frog is because of its small stature, but that call that it does, A, is unique. Other frogs of the same sort of species or genesis do not make that call in the same way that this frog does. But equally, this tiny little frog, when it makes its call, is hitting 90 to 100 decibels. That's huge for a frog of such small stature, and that's one of the main reasons why Puerto Ricans are proud of this frog and why it's one of their national sort of symbols, is because of that small stature but that big voice. And when I was reading up on this and researching this, I read somewhere that they like this frog, why this frog is a national symbol, because they say, I'm not shouting, I'm Puerto Rican. That's what I read. And it's just in the Puerto Rican sort of culture. It's seeped into the identity of being from Puerto Rico that you may be smaller in stature, but big in voice and loud and strong and powerful in the same way that this little frog has a huge voice. So that's the story behind it. And it's right there on the insole on these guys. And that's why I named this video the way I did, was because I wanted to talk about that frog and why it's so important to the shoe, but equally to Puerto Rico. And like I said, I haven't seen it written up elsewhere on the places I usually go to check out information about the sneakers. So hopefully I've helped you understand a little bit more about Puerto Rican culture and this shoe. And if you're actually from Puerto Rico, which would be an amazing honor to have somebody from Puerto Rico watching this video, hopefully I've done the story proud. And feel free to correct me. Oh, there goes my iPad. Feel free to correct me about if I've got the pronunciation of the frog wrong, or if I've got a detail in the story wrong. I don't mind comments down below that correct me when I'm wrong. I really appreciate that. In fact, I love to learn from my channel and not just have it be all monologue from me to you. Having you guys shoot back with comments and information and telling me things is something I truly appreciate. So if you do, let me know down in the comments below. So that's part one of this video. Part two is all about the details on this guy. And like I said, it's a really clean white sneaker. White, completely white upper. There's a few hits of color in there, but a completely white upper all the way down to the swoosh on the side as well, which is completely in white as well. So there's no outline around anything. There's nothing to give it a sort of point of interest or something to anchor the shoe on. And the reason I think they did that was because they really want you to look in three specific places when you're looking at this shoe. Now the two of the places are tied together, and then the other one isn't quite so tied together. So let's go to the other one, which is right at the bottom of the lacing system on this beautiful buttery white upper. You've got a blue swoosh down there standing on its own, and it just really pops off the shoe because the shoe is so white. Anything that was down there would pop off, but deep blue really contrasts to the white there. So that's a really nice touch. An equally nice touch is if we go up to the top of the lacing system, to the top of the tongue, we get to the first Puerto Rican flags on these guys, and you can see them emblazoned there in their red, white, and blue. So hence the blue swoosh down below, hence the white upper. But of course, we're going to need some red in there somewhere, but we'll get to that as we go through the shoe in a little bit. And it's not too far to go from that tongue and that Puerto Rican flag at the top of the tongue to go just a little bit higher and back to that insole. So instead, though, of looking at the insole and the frogs on there, what we want to do is have a look at the lining. Now, the previous version of these had a different lining, but here we are in 2020 with the latest version, the retro, or whatever you want to call it. And now they've gone with a blue lining, and that gives you that blue top line on there. Very rich, really contrasts well with that white from above. And then not too far away from that, it's not hard to go along the side of the lateral, but not the medial. The medial is very plain white, nothing much going on there. But on the lateral towards the heel, you've got two really important details. One is that Puerto Rican flag repeated again that matches the flag up there in the tongues. And then directly below that, in my mind, a kind of interesting design choice. The air is there in that deep blue, but then the two lines that come on either side of it, which often match the same branding or design style, don't in the case of this. It's an all white midsole. The two lines on either side of the air are also in white, but the word air itself is in dark blue. I think, I'm pretty sure I've got that right. And then the final thing to do is to go around to the back of these guys, where we'll have a look at the heel. Of course, white because the upper is white, but then the branding unit or patch or whatever you want to call that at the top there is in that deep blue again, and here we have that final red that goes with the Puerto Rican flag. Nike swoosh air, I think is I'm right in saying is what it says on the back there, and it completes a really tidy shoe. Let's look at yesterday's shoe, Air Max 95 Era. Shoe, as soon as I looked at it, I thought, yes, what a beautiful shoe. But let's flip that out and have the top of the tongue branding and then the insole on there, and you can see what a violent blast burst of colour that doesn't go at all with this lateral for the shoe here in any way, really. And that's what disappointed me about yesterday's shoe. If we come forward to today's one, to these Puerto Rican Air Force Ones, absolutely spot on, not a stitch out of place. Beautiful white, great blue accents, great red accents to represent that Puerto Rican flag, and then that little story of the frog inside. Brilliant sneaker, nailed it. Yesterday, looked okay and I was disappointed. Today, looks great and actually pulls it out of the bag and comes through and is a great looking sneaker. So that's the end of my video today. Hopefully people out there appreciate it. Like I said, if somebody from Puerto Rico happens to see this, I would truly love it if you put a comment down below, even if it was to say you don't know what you're talking about. I'd still kind of get a kick out of it. So if somebody from Puerto Rico does get their hand in this video, please, for sure, check it out. And actually, I probably should call out my good friend Mo Gaines, one of my greatest followers and one of the greatest gentlemen in the world, because he lives out there in the Caribbean too, which I don't think is too far away from Puerto Rico. He's not actually on Puerto Rico, but he is in one of the other Caribbean islands around there. So to you, Mo Gaines, and to anyone from Puerto Rico, this video is for you guys. I hope I did your island proud. I hope I did your culture proud. I hope I did your story proud. For now, though, time for me to sign off and thank you guys for checking out the content. And I've been trying to think of new ways to say what I say at the end of every single video. And what I do say is this, and I'm tempted to try and croak it like a frog, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it straight tonight because it is already almost 1 o'clock in the morning and this video is due in a couple of hours time. So I'll just say thanks for checking out the content, but as I do this every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.